and see anything potentially spicy.
Yeah, that's right. I'm wondering what this being an aggro race. I'm wondering what the specific benefits in terms of this matchup are. I know if you were, let's say, playing as you're trying to fatigue the Dio, this would be some very good information. But these guys are just planning to race each other, so I'm guessing Cody's probably just seeing, is Lewis playing Max V? How many? Obviously, you know how many boom grenades Dio is going to be playing, and I don't think he's going to be doing a too lot of blocking. So,
I, th-
what do you think, Matt, in terms of what he's looking out for?
I think the most important thing to note when you are, particularly on the dash side, is knowing how many defense reactions are in the list. Because it is important to know when you look at a deck list, you don't see, oh, this is my sideboard, this is my regular board. It is just, this is my Aiden. And so knowing for a fact that your opponent might be, we've seen some Cindra lists run 0 defense reactions. We've seen some run as little, like as many as like the full 9. I think 7's probably like where it is, like where we're most consistently. And also just kind of knowing, is there a chance that they can pivot if things start going poorly? Generally speaking, the decks on these Draconic Ninjas don't block the best, but with some of the changes to how they've been building their decks, maybe. But I think defense reactions on both ends of the spectrum, or at least if you're on the Dash.io side, is definitely important. And then again, as you were saying, maximum velocity alongside just how many items that they might actually be.
Yeah, I think I've only seen it maybe one time where I've seen a Draconic Ninja fatigue a dash, or a Cindra fatigue a dash. I was very surprised that it was actually possible, but just knowing that it could lead to a very interesting game. It could pivot on a dime.
Yeah, in general, I think if you're playing a ninja and you're attempting to fatigue your opponent, something has gone a little bit wrong. But we will see players taking a bit of a moment. You see as well on the side of Cody Gerbert really analyzing this deck list. It's important to know, I don't believe you're allowed to look at your opponent's deck list mid-game. You kind of get it at the very start, then you hand the paper back to the judges, and that's it. So you're not allowed to look. So he's trying to memorize how many of this does he have? We've seen some lists as well that aren't on Max V run some really interesting, not only item options, but things like fender benders, knowing the mech attacks that essentially just say you can't block with your equipment. There's a couple of them, outpace being, I guess, the most common one. How many of those? So do I have to spend my equipment now, and that sort of thing as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. I think coming from Cody's side, that's probably the most important thing he needs to know. What breakpoints do I need to block with my equipment? Because I only get, as Cindra, you only get to block one breakpoint and actually keep a piece of armor, right? You only have those boots that can block one and stay around. The other blocks, they require you giving up your mask, your flick knives, or your blood splattered vest, which is a huge deal.
Sometimes they actually run the flame scale furnace as well for these aggro matchups where they just want more blocking value. Blood splattered vest, you get a lot of value off of the fact of you're gaining the resource essentially whenever. But sometimes flame scale furnace, if you just need to block, I wouldn't be surprised if it is just blood splattered vest and it's kind of go time, because it's so weird, right? With mech is that there are no actual on hits, with like a couple of very big exceptions, until there's an item on the battlefield, and then suddenly everything has an on hit. So I don't know.
Yeah.
This matchup again, you're gonna see life totals changing very rapidly.
Oh yeah, especially because the Dio doesn't really have a lot of blocking potential outside of using the fridge. So you'd think that the Mask of Momentum will be really easy to trigger for Cody.
I think it's one of those things as well, though, where Dash.io, we've seen it do some pretty crazy things, but I also think it actually kind of converts decently well blocking. You can kind of just block with some stuff, set up again, and like you were saying before, how important it is for Lewis to go first. And taking a bit of a look, he is the higher seed as well, meaning that he does get to decide first or second, which is really important because it means he can go, cool, get a bunch of counters on my gun, deploy a bunch of items, pass, and then kind of take whatever damage Cindra wants to throw back. Yes, I might give you a card and I might give you 4 more damage, but then I'm just going to blast you with a whole bunch of items and a bunch of boom grenades.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I think this might be a controversial statement. I think it's a go first format right now. I think a lot of decks want to be just going first right now, and there's just there's just a good reason to always be going first. I mean, even I've seen it like in regards to fire and aggro deck. I don't think he minds going first either, because he can set up things like epots. He can arsenal his out of the Phoenix War and set up for a big turn. I don't know. What do you think about that, Matt?
I tend to agree. I think like in general, like through card games, like just in general, going first is incredibly powerful. And you
Yeah.
kind of need a reason to go second. But
Yep.
there's so much like there are a lot of like of these tempo decks that do like going second, but setting up is never a bad thing. And yeah, as we see, the equipment has been revealed, and we are seeing Flamescale Furnace for the side of Cody Gerbert. Knows that he actually instead is just going to really just defend with his equipment and hope for the best. Importantly to note as well, he is bringing the boots of Omen's Ward instead of the Dragon Scale Fight Pass, which is interesting.
Yeah, that tells us he might be looking to take a more defensive stance and block these breakpoints that can offer a boom grenade blowing up. Interesting to see no flight path. So yeah, it kind of speaks to Cody's mindset going into the matchup. On the other side, we see the usual Dio absolute fridge. Why they have access to that big block chunk of armor, I'm not sure, but good on him for using it.
And it's one of these things with the Omen's Ward, even though there's a big line of text on it that talks about arcane damage, but just being able to block with it and then prevent something later on in the turn or prevent something on that chain link is super important. It is important to note as well that even when like a deck, if you're playing with these cards and you block with them and then they go to close the chain, you can, in response to them closing the chain, activate the prevention, and it just kind of floats there for the rest of the turn. So it is still 2 value regardless, unless they close the chain and then just pass on you. But if that's the case, you're probably feeling okay.
Yeah, the boots just getting 1 value, and then you can pop them. I mean, a relevant attack is, I think it's called Teklo Trebuchet 2000, the one that the 1 power blue that comes in and pumps the next one. That's a really good breakpoint to block when you've got a boom grenade on the field. Also, if worst comes to worst, the boom grenade blows up, you can prevent one of the boom grenade damage, right? Like,
yeah, exactly. But we are seeing the players shuffling up and getting ready to jump into this quarterfinal match of the Australian 2026 National Championships. Important to note as well that you are going to see Dash.io very aggressively boosting away its deck. It's not going to be concerned about getting fatigued out by a ninja. And in the same vein, Cody is just going to be throwing things at a wall and seeing what sticks. Damage is going to be flying around in general, but it is important to not get used to seeing Dash.io on your screen here for our top 8, as we actually have 3 of them sitting in our top 8 as well. Players shuffling up and finally getting ready to jump into this game.
Yeah, Dio is one of those interesting decks. Haven't seen it around on top tables too much lately in other tournaments, but we obviously have a couple of Dio, professionals in our top 8. And if you're good at this deck, it is very, very strong.
Taking a bit of a look at the opening hands here, it's a little hard to make out, but Lewis hasn't found the all-important quad item hand. He has a double item here, so a boom grenade as well as a backup protocol. Generally speaking, not the greatest when it comes to an opening hand, and it's really interesting because you actually often want to find these on top, and it looks like actually. Oh, okay. Yeah, Cody was about to line up an attack, but I do. Yeah, Lewis has gone. Hey, actually, I said I would go first, and that is to be expected. Just taking a moment of consideration here for Lewis now. Just what do you actually play out? Do you want to crank out this boom grenade? Because those boom grenades is really how you push the damage and flip the tides in your favor.
I think he's considering if he wants to filter a card, because like you said, yeah, and he is going to filter out this 0 to 60 here. Probably filter this out, set up an item, and just pass the turn away.
There was a bit of hesitation because the heist was on the top of the deck too, and that card is super important when it comes to just sort of cheating out things like Teklo Pounders. I'd be curious. I wouldn't be surprised if there's actually no Teklo Pounder in this matchup. You don't need to find the extra damage to get over the top, and it is a bit of a liability because there's no way of cranking it. But yeah, it's just going to set up both of the items. Actually, decides to crank the backup protocol and then just leave the boom grenade there. And it is important to know that if this hand had actually been just like a whole bunch of blue cards and 1 red, he could like block with the red and buy it back to get value off of it. But regardless, there's still 2 counters on the gun. And coming off for the side of our ninja, is going to be just a really great way of starting its Ignite.
Yeah, Ignite, just an amazing glue piece for these Draconic Ninjas. Just, just this bread and butter, free dagger after it, extending the chain, making your Mask of Momentum that much likely to trigger.
This is something that you're going to see pretty frequently in this matchup. Lewis just declaring no blocks. And at this point, this next attack is threatening Mask regardless. The flick knives you have to remember as well as always looming. Pain on the backside also threatens another flick of the dagger. And this one here might be blocked out by Lewis, but I also wouldn't be surprised if Lewis just says, yeah, my hand is really good. We see Spark of Genius looming in the backside as well. And that can really enable some of these giant turns for Dash.io. Damage has come across, and you see the mask being motioned towards as well, and a card will be drawn.
Yeah, I think Lewis in this position just saying, I'm going to lose value blocking here because you're going to dodge me with your flick knives. So I'm just going to have a really good offensive turn and counter your mask draw.
Couldn't catch what the card drawn up was, but I mean, this looks like a pretty great turn for the side of Cody, particularly because he only got to filter a singular card. But Burning Blade Dance being the next attack, where when this hits a hero, you can have a target dagger essentially flicked at them. So a second way of flicking a dagger here. The mark will come. No, sorry. Is that Burning Blade Dance? No. It's the mark.
Hot on their heels.
They all look the same. That one's Burning Blade Dance.
That's
I saw one in your hand.
Dance.
Look at those cards and tell me they don't look similar. And now we're seeing the potential flick. And the life total just plummeting for Lewis. You have to remember, though, Lewis has a lot of offensive output and the fact as well that there's still a fridge coming in later. Cody closes the chain and opts to... Oh! Absolutely devastating. The end of the chain link isn't another attack. Instead, it's Warmonger's Diplomacy. And this might change a lot of things, but luckily for the side of Lewis, does actually have plenty of physical attacks to come through.
Yeah, he does, Matt. But we see the Spark of Genius in hand. That's huge, not being able to play that Spark of Genius this turn. That card is just so valuable.
Best feeling in the game has come through those. One of your items goes away, but the soup up ready to be attacked in with. So 4 go again and doesn't even need to boost. That's why this card is so good. Also pretty incredible on the defensive side. And we see, yeah, an attack did hit after the mark happened. So a fealty and no mark available. This is 4 go again into another 4, remembering threatening that yellow boom grenade every single time.
Now, I wonder if Cody has a defense reaction here. I wonder if... I'm sure this is a matchup you definitely board in the D-reacts because stopping these boom grenades is so important. But he's having a long think here, so he's wondering if his turn puts out enough damage to warrant saying no blocks here.
An interesting card choice for the side of Cody Gerbert as well. Something we don't always see from these Draconic Ninjas, but Enlightened Strike sitting in hand. So maybe he's actually presented a deck where instead of it just needing to only have that one game plan of just attack with my entire grip every turn, has the opportunity to actually block and play a little bit more of an efficient game on a turn where he needs to block.
Yeah, it's very important into decks like Arachne Marionette. Having good block potential can dramatically change the course of that matchup.
Cody's just trying to math out what the Dash.io turn could be, and it is a very challenging thing to do. Luckily, knows for a fact that there's no sneakiness off the top of the deck this time, just due to the Warmonger's Diplomacy still looming. War was cast, but War was declared by both players, and yeah, no blocks in this instance. So the first 4 plus the boom grenade, and the second 4 to follow it up. Pocket soup ups coming across here. And yeah, no blocks declared.
5 go again.
And having to pitch the Spark of Genius here.
Spark will be pitched, but a red zipper hit. You know, these life totals just absolutely ping-ponging back and forward. Now, Cody doesn't have an arsenal, which is important for the side of Lewis to know, but you also have to consider that last time Lewis did just let the mask trigger resolve. So kind of like playing with a 5-card hand. And Lewis, despite being under Warmongers and not being able to have the giant turn he would have liked, instead is still able to just put the life totals back so he's only a life down. You have to remember that Dash.io starts lower. Just taking into consideration here.
I think he just knocked a card off the top of the deck and is just checking that it's everything's all above board.
Oh,
you didn't boost any of that time, did you?
Yeah, I'm not 100. Oh, he must have forgotten to boost, I believe. So yeah, so didn't boost off the zipper here. He declared it, but didn't actually boost the card. So putting the top card into the bin, which is that red boom grenade. Would have loved to have seen that. And draws up another hand here. Finds a third boom grenade. Is that a max velocity behind it? I can't tell.
I think you may be right, Matt. It looked like that. Important to note, like really good sportsmanship shown by Lewis here. You know, you would love to have that boom grenade on top, but he's saying, no, I didn't boost. I'm going to pop that one in the graveyard.
Another pass back to Cody here. Has, as we said before, the 4 cards in hand ready to go. And Light and Strike being one of them is certainly interesting. We'll see how that ends up being. Might be just a nice chain ender. So you go opener, middle card, E-Strike, and then draw a card to have an arsenal as well. That 2 points of damage is often replaced by whatever you draw off the top.
Yeah, E-Strike, just such a modal card. Fits into a lot of different decks because it just fills a lot of roles and glues a deck together.
Cody, now taking a moment just to consider what the line looks like. Might have thought he needed to actually declare a singular block card on that previous turn. We saw him tanking on the first soup up. Now just sort of considering, how do I navigate? How do I find the amount of damage that I know I need to push through? Because at some point, Lewis is going to have the turn. He's going to have the turn where we've seen it many, many times before, where he gets out 2 Cerebellum processors and a Teklo core and just starts going to town. So needs to sort of put the life total where he's forcing blocks out of Lewis prior to that setup having occurred. And, you know, Lewis a little unlucky on turn 0, wasn't able to actually get the big setup that you would expect.
Yeah, another thing important to note is Lewis has not touched his fridge of armor at all. So the life totals maybe not completely accurately representing the state of the game right now.
Just a moment still. Players just thinking. Particularly, he's going to opt to pitch the Enlightened Strike instead, and just the first dagger going to be sent across, and that point of life will easily just be taken. So wants to keep the E-Strike in the deck for whatever reason. He's going to activate the fealty now and look to send something else draconic so he can buy back the daggers later. I mean, we talked about Blood Spattered Vest versus the Flamescale Furnace here. Might have been able to find a way of like flicking to gain the resource so he didn't have to pitch. But this is probably why I didn't actually have a dedicated, clean starter. So as a result, now needed the first Draconic Chain Link. But even so, 3 Go Again is being presented now. And Lewis is actually looking to line a block up. And yeah, we'll line up this first block.
Interestingly, Lewis looking to line up a block early. Maybe he doesn't like the way his hand looks.
We were sort of talking about it before, Jai, where the deck doesn't mind blocking a little bit and taking a little bit of setup because he has no items right now. And so just instead wants to deny as much damage as possible. 4 Go Again coming across this time. It's potentially, I think it's Display Loyalty. What is it? Oh, it might be. Yeah, it's either Display or Lava Vein.
Yeah,
it's a red draconic card that has the word loyalty in it. It's one of them. The fridge being presented in front this time. A golden cog will be created. Often used for fishing with soup ups. Because it is an item, does actually tick the gun up as well.
Okay.
Cindra activation as well. You have to remember that even though it wasn't physically on the combat chain, that dagger did represent chain link 1. So enough draconic links just to be able to buy it back for free. And it really is the engine of this Cindra deck and why Flick Knives went from a card that people weren't really running too much to one of the most powerful pieces of equipment in the game.
And Cody just deciding to pass there. He was thinking on deploying something at the end of the turn.
Start of my turn called Cano.
Trying to think about what that would be.
Taking a little bit of a look here as well. There's a 0 to 60 in hand, and it is going to be starting off that all-important 1 damage. Probably one of the better cards that we've seen for the mech class. Teklo Trebuchet 2000, giving the next attack +2 if it's boosted. which makes some of these really powerful. You know, people run Teklo Pounders. This is kind of like a Teklo Pounder that also has attack on it.
Yeah, this card can be really annoying when boom grenades are on the field. We might see Cody look to his Boots of Omnis Ward here. Obviously, there is no boom grenade on the field, but you never know with Dio.
And the boots could certainly be deployed. I feel like you probably want to save them alongside the Flamescale Furnace for when you have significantly more than lethal in hand, and you can kind of just present the fridge and go, cool, I'm killing you. You have to start blocking from this point. Single point of damage as Cody now takes a little bit of time and just opts to take the damage. 0 to 60 boosting away here. It's going to be 6 damage instead. It's a 0 for 4, but the little +2, just again, a 0 for 6 with go again sounds pretty good to me.
Cody doing a little look towards the sky there, maybe in the blender a little bit here. I'm not sure about what to do. Let's see how he plays this one out.
6-6.
Yeah, no blocks being declared once again, and Lewis still has a boom grenade in hand, so may actually opt to, because, you know, there's been several attacks at this point that have come through, he's probably just going to look to pitch it away to activate Teklo Foundry Heart. Oh, and it is the Pounders are in. Both Pounder and a Teklo Core have been removed from the deck at this point. 3 resources floating now, and it is going to be just a red throttle coming across. 3 key items alongside that BIOS update being just banished away, not to be retrieved again. 6 more damage. 19 plays 11, and yeah, Cody just going, cool. You were the first person to use your equipment, and then a gun to come across at the end as well. So 7 life is what's left for the side of Cody Gerbert, but is set up now. Or is it actually going to instead just, deploy out the Flamescale Furnace? So 19 plays 9. Now, it's important to note here, though, is that we have the classic adaptive plating available alongside the Golden Cog to galvanize away.
Yep, he's got a bit of defensive, a big defensive chunk just sitting there on the board, waiting to be galvanized. And yeah, Cody Gerbert just points to it.
Rising Resentment, the first play here. The classic Draconic Head Jab, a card we've seen from all the way back to when Draconic was first sort of present. 3 damage coming across, and again, it's just the game of who can declare the last point of damage first. And it's one of those things where Cody's damage is a little bit more face up, but very, very consistent just across the turns. Hot on their heels now. On hit mark being present alongside the 3 go again.
Now, a mass trigger here could be huge for Cody. I think he needs to.
And saving the Blaze Headlong there present as well, just to make sure that, I want to give you a breakpoint. I want to make it so you're forced to use that Galvanize alongside the last piece of chest equipment. And we actually also see, really importantly on the side of Lewis, the Crown of Providence is there. One of the most powerful headpieces that in Flesh and Blood, but even especially in a deck like Dash.io, where you can know the card you're going to draw into. A moment now. This here, as you said before, Jai, is threatening the Mask of Momentum trigger. So it is probably one of the things you do need to look to defend, but it's always scary versus these Cindra decks where they can just present 2 back-to-back Mask triggers just with Flick Knives available.
Yeah, Lewis has a problem to solve here. He knows if he puts some block in front of this Blaze Headlong, the Cindra's going to dodge it with a Flick Knives. So he needs to think, if I block here and they flick, can I stop the Mask trigger again?
I think it's less a case of can I stop it, but there's 2 cards left, plus the card potentially drawn off the top, plus the flick. Even if, even if we eventually draw the card, is it fine for me to make them to let them draw the card in these instances? Because the damage isn't actually going to present my life totem. We'll see here now, Cody extends the chain just with the Flick Knives, which does remove the mark because it is hitting. It has 2 fealty available here, but galvanizing the cog away to make sure that it's actually for 4, and then coming in once again out of the arsenal this time. Just having a quick read of the card as well because of the chain link. This is another breakpoint. Mask of Perdition so it is actually opting to just crown away that item, just knows he needs just damage and damage and damage. So no mask being threatened anymore. A singular card in hand and is just actually going to scoop him up and keep a card in arsenal.
Yep.
Knows, no, it's another Warmongers instead.
Another Warmongers.
Both the Warmongers have been found. I don't know how many are running Cody's deck, but Lewis must breathe a huge sigh of relief as he actually crowned away the Cerebellum Processor that was in the hand.
Yeah, maybe a bit of foresight there from Lewis, or maybe just pure luck. But he also drew into a throttle, which when he calls war is going to make this turn very strong.
Placing it. Just take a moment now. 12 plays 9. The life total's plummeting ever quickly. Again, not many actual turns have actually gone through, and just starting us off. Gonna pitch away because it was a blue throttle. Has to reach over and read the card. Fender Bender. Hey, you want to put that equipment in front of it? Oh, it's a Medex. Sorry,
that's
hard
Medex.
to tell.
Yeah,
and inside the hand, it does actually get around Warmongers as well. So this does, because you're not playing the card. Now, we know for a fact that Lewis doesn't have the item, but if it's something along the lines of, I don't know, backup protocol, suddenly you're converting whatever card in his hand into probably another throttle, a 0 for 60. And yeah, you see Cody going through the graveyard at this point, figuring out what blows me out if this actually does hit.
and at this stage, can he afford to block it?
Has a Fate Foreseen in hand. So Cody can cleanly block this one out, but is just trying to think of what's the secondary attack, because in these sorts of matchups, it's not about if you like what you want to block, it's when you want to block. And yes, this does threaten technically another card if an item is played from the hand. They have to have it. You kind of make it. And yeah, just Fate Foreseening, just putting a card, takes the opt here, cleanly blocks this one out. And if you're on the side of Lewis, that does feel pretty good. Particularly because another attack is coming through. Outpace here. That equipment suite that we see along Cody Gerbert's side cannot be used. And this is one of the cards that we actually see really do a lot of work in these dash decks. 1 life available after the gun comes across, and 3 cards for the hand of Cody. There is no blocking equipment left on the side of Lewis, and Cody still actually has access to a lot of fridge.
Yeah, this game's going to go right down to the wire, and it looks like we're going to see the Ignite into Dagger, probably bread and butter. And you're right, Matt. Cody has a lot of fridge still to work with, so this game is far from over.
It is actually 3 life. Sorry, the players kind of shortcutted the damage, knew the pistol was coming afterwards as well. So 11, it plays 3. So still a little bit of life to work with. And as you were saying, Jai, the dagger coming across, discounted by the Ignite. And Lewis now in the tank thinking, where do I actually present my blocks? Now, it's really interesting when you look at this situation, right? And this is a situation that comes up with particularly Cindra, which is that if, for whatever reason, Lewis blocks this dagger, and Cody wants to continue the chain, he has to flick the dagger that's not actually in play, which means that the next one is easier to block because it is just 1 life, because you're blocking 1. If you had a piece of equipment, you throw it in front, and it is a lot harder for them to Cody to go double back-to-back 4s to threaten the card draw. But no, Lewis knows, I cannot afford to give a card up here, and instead is opting to take the Mask of Momentum being threatened, and there's still a card in hand.
Yep, still a card in hand. This Fire Strike does come in for 3. So and most mech cards block for 3 as well. So he might be able to cleanly block this. However, the Flick Knives, like you said, is still available, and there's still a card in hand, and it's going to be getting +1 from the Fire Strike if it's Draconic.
As well, kind of a Teklo Trebuchet at home, just making those breakpoints even harder to deal with, and has 2 fealties as well. So whatever this next attack may be is guaranteed to be Draconic anyway. And now Lewis has to consider, what happens if I just say no blocks? What if he just goes 3 into 3 into 3? Well, a card has to be done because there is still a Flick Knives available. But what if he bricks? What if he draws like the worst possible thing in his deck, which is, you know, he could actually draw one of those one for 4s, 1 for 5s instead, if there even are any in there. So it is curious And this is one of those situations where you have to decide, am I playing to not lose or am I playing to win? And the way that he wins in his mind might be
Block
just
3.
no blocks. But no, he's just going to lay down the red throttle.
Well, what I was going to say, what if the attack in hand is just a chain ender, and then he knows the Mask of Momentum trigger doesn't matter, and he can just blast Cody.
Take 1.
So we see a flick.
4.
It's not a mask.
No,
It is not a
you're
chain
right.
ender, though. It is a 0 for 3.
It is
And
an
now
extender.
you take the risk.
Yeah, this is
The
difficult.
only card that kills you, if he draws it, is Lava Burst. Because he can't generate any resources. It is a 0 for 5.
No blocks.
Everything else
Take
will
4.
not kill you.
Yep. Yep.
So you have to sort of sit there and consider. Do I take the risk? The risk
Yep.
has been taken. A card being drawn. What does he find? A card.
Oh, it's a 0 for 4.
It is a 0 for 4.
It demands a card, Matt.
Life totals maybe not as updated as I thought they were. 0 for 4 was found off the top. Cody knew that was there. Had actually fate foreseen it to the top. So maybe a little bit of lost information for the side of Lewis. And now Lewis knows for a fact he has to give a card. But there's one thing is that there's so much equipment left on the side of Cody. If he gives just a singular card, Cody can just actually afford to block with Mask of Momentum. On hit death is better than on hit draw a card.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And Lewis is just probably thinking inside, why on earth did it have to be 4? Why couldn't it be 3? He's 1 point off of being able to keep a 3-card hand and really put Cody to the sword.
Now, we talked a little bit about how sometimes these aggro matchups do actually feel like they're slower than the fatigue ones. That's because every single point of value is so important. Yellow zipper hit, 3 plays 3 here. Now, the dagger's purchased once again by Cody Gerbert. No arsenal for either player right now. Draws up the hand. Actually does find a couple of interesting cards here for the side of Cody. A boom grenade being played and then coming through. It's not the break point though.
Oh, no.
Sorry, no, we have cranked. We've cranked the boom grenade, so 4 damage is coming across here. But
wrong.
if he wants, he can just present this plus a piece of equipment. No, but there's the sink below in hand as well. You see Lewis reel back in his seat. The perfect answer for the side of Cody Gerbert. Lets him filter the hand out as well. A point of damage. 2's going to come across, but this is not going to be enough to do it. We'll put Cody to 1. The boom grenade just not there in time. And Cody has 3 cards in hand, was able to filter. And what does he find? Is he going to be able to do it? Mask of Momentum is actually going to be placed in front of the gun as well. Again, we talked about it. There's something better than on hit, draw a card. And that's on hit, make your way through to the semis.
Yeah, that's right. And now if you're in Lewis's seat, you are terrified because Cindra coming at you when you're on 3 health and she can flick a bunch of daggers at you. It doesn't look good, Matt.
Saw Cody's hand was a little bit awkward at the start. Drew 2 non-draconic cards alongside this Oath of Loyalty, but the sink below able to filter one of them away. 4 damage coming across. Hyper Scrapper, a card that we see sometimes, but not always, is going to be placed here on blocks. And yep, using the fealties. That's why we do it. The flick dagger.
Oh,
In the sense, using the
That's
card
huge,
throw
yeah.
dagger here to also draw a card. 1 life, and Lewis understands now there is a flick knives looming in the background. There's one thing better, and it was using this is why fealty is so important in these lists.
Again.
E-strike for 7. The hand is placed
Got
onto
it.
the battlefield, but one of the cards does not block. And Cody Gerbert, a sigh of relief as he is able to progress his way through. Cindra, a real showing here at the Australian Nationals for 2026. Just an incredible masterclass